Hey, Addicts, welcome back. We're here for Slime again, surprisingly. I know it's been a while, but we're back for an entire review of Season 1, and he is here. He's actually going to give his opinion. So, with that being said, with him being gone all the time, I'm going to let him start.
Okay, so Slime was really long. It was 24 episodes. It was broken up into two different seasons, as we've seen sometimes with different shows. You know, you have like My Hero breaking up. I mean, technically it's Season 2 and Season 3. You have Overlord doing that with Season 2 and Season 3. So it's common to have at least some anime, stretch across two seasons. This one is just one seasons as in like fall and winter or whatever, So this one is just one season, 24 episodes. We've been here for a while, and we have some mixed opinions about it. Yeah. Overall,
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, I don't know if we have to necessarily tell them what it's about, because for all the people that watch the episode stuff, and then for the people that are coming into this, like, literally it's a guy. He died. He got reincarnated as a slime.
He got some powers. He's a nice guy.
He's an OP slime boy.
He's a nice guy. Yeah. The 24 episodes kind of spans a lot of the source material. Sadly, it does kind of end at a point where the book turns, or the source material turns, and I think it did suffer a little bit just because of a lack of, I wouldn't say depth, but emotional weight through the second half of the season. I mean, you do get to follow the kids that, may die, but end up being okay. Mm-hmm. So, you have that tension. But I really don't think there's much tension in the first season, past maybe once I guess when he fakes like the Orc Lord or whatever, there's some. But I don't know. I think some of it suffers from, the first season just being that part of the source material, which is good but not great, similar to like how Danmachi Season 1, the source material is good and then it gets great later.
Yeah, it gets even better.
Yeah, so I think some of Slime suffers from that a little bit. Overall, animation-wise, in the first season, it was pretty great. You had some good fight scenes. CGI wasn't too bad. It happened every once in a while, but wasn't super noticeable. And overall, some of the characters got a good amount of development, but there has been some difficulties because you have so many different characters. You really don't get to see a lot of those that you thought were your favorites at the beginning. Yeah,
I don't even know if it's... We probably won't go over each character for the sake of time, but there is quite a big... I think, it's kind of like an Overlord scenario where, it's a big... Like, it's one guy, obviously, that it centers around, but it has a huge community or, empire, if you will, that surrounds him. And then there's a bunch of other kind of collaborated forces that are in the entourage of that. But with that being said, I guess, I liked the season. It's a good show. I think for people that are watching it, I think if you're fans of the book, you'll probably like the show a little bit more than maybe people that, are just introduced to the story the first time watching the show. But that's also, there's some things I think, Michael will probably say, as well as like I've, talked to people in the comments about that, people that are fans of the book. There is some frustrating moments in the show with the pacing, with certain topics that they decide to either touch on or stretch out and then shorten some other ones. But I still think it's a good show. It's one for me personally. I think the beginning I was like, this is a little slow, but I'm liking it. The middle, it's like, this is pretty good. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. And then the end is just one of those where I think it just lacks the oomph it really needed as a season ender.
But it's a scientific term, by the way.
Yeah. Trying to keep it scientifically fact here. But with that being said, they do kind of help, I guess, lessen that blow by adding some side episodes that are, I guess, meant to give like teases for the next season, both like characters and then also like what's maybe potentially going to happen. So, that's something I think where they kind of saved it a bit, but I don't think it was enough.
Yeah, overall, I think Slime didn't... I think last season, it almost stood out among the field. I don't know if that's just because the other shows weren't that great, or they were like, everything was ending and, we were moving on. But I think in the second half of the season, it did get overshadowed by, Love is War, by Mob, etc. And I think that that, along with it, the source material not being, well, not necessarily the source material, but the execution and the pacing that they decided to go for the show not being great, definitely hurt it, not only in popularity, but at least my rating of the show.
Right. I think also and this is also due to like the pacing, but I think a lot of the characters in Slime, they're really likable, and you do have a sense of like intrigue for a lot of the ones that you don't necessarily get their background in. But I think it's really odd because we kind of fast forward, or we're going at a pretty good pace at the beginning, and we get introduced to a good bunch of them, but then we really don't focus on many of them individually, so I think that kind of lacks in their development by the end, and I'm not really sure how that's going to translate into the next season when there's potentially going to have some, big things that they're going to want you to care about, and just from what we've seen, I'm not sure if those are going to land, that
yeah, I mean, I think they reinforced the lighter tone that in some ways it was dark with like Shizu's death and the backstory, the general backstory that she has, but kind of throughout the majority of the show they kind of maintained a lighter tone, which is all right, but it may be jarring going into the second season with the events that are going to happen there. Yeah. So, overall, I would say that I'm glad that they made, Slime as an anime. I think it's good source material. I think it, the future of it has a bright future, especially if the author changes some things with the web novel, once they get to those points. But I wish that it was executed a little bit better. Maybe the pacing was a little bit better. And obviously, I don't know, with so many things happening at the beginning of season 2, the way they set it up, I don't know if it would have worked to be in season 1. Or maybe they had some restraints, or maybe the author, wanted it to end there. But I think that ending, I don't know. I didn't like the ending that much, and that definitely affected my opinion of the show.
I think, since we kind of talked about a little bit of the negatives, I will just highlight a few of the things that I really like. I did really like the comedic aspect, even though I think it did take a little bit too much reign in the show. But I think there's a lot of subtleties to their comedy that they do through their animation, especially, that I really like. There's a lot of things with like Rimuru, like maybe his expressions as a slime, or just like the stuff they do, like even the little stuff as like at the ending, some of the ending where he's just like bouncing. Or like, in his little bath, he has like other little slimes.
It's cute. It's a cute show.
Those are like some things that I think they do really well. Or even I think you pointed out in one of the episode ones where he does his like little expressions that are typically drawn in animation. Like the marks where they're like angry or something. They have like him articulate those in his slime form. Those I find really great. Another highlight, I think. Believe it or not, it's really odd that I would mention this, but I do like the music a lot. I think it kind of sells that whole gamey approach that they have, kind of like some other isekais try to do in anime. But I think it's just kind of reminiscent of like Nintendo. It's like, hey, are we going to get Rimuru for Smash, please? So yeah, I like that. And then I think, probably the biggest highlight is the action. Because even though we don't get too many like over-the-top action pieces, I think they do those pretty well.
And we gotta love Great Sage.
Great Sage
I think that
interesting dynamic.
That was a great, you got it right. It's an interesting dynamic, and
it's a unique approach.
Yeah, it's something that you don't really see that much, where you have someone who only is interacting with the main character, and interactions are limited, but it's still kind of cool.
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting too because in a lot of shows, just in general, or stories, you see like the main protagonists do all this stuff by themselves. You see them yes, they're powerful, but like also like skill wise, they seem to just get it really fast, or they just seem to get it out of nowhere. So it is kind of a interesting way, and also kind of a way to kind of not balance it. Yeah, where it's like, oh, he has this thing that helps him kind of develop skills. And
it makes
his swordmanship
more
and
stakes
like
realistic,
that. Yeah. And you have it still for a comedic factor, because then he can just be like, all right, Great Sage, take over, and they just like...
Yeah, exactly.
So, but with that being said, Michael, anything else you want to highlight, or you want to go into a rating?
We can go into a rating that I don't want to make a graphic for.
I already have one made, you just have to enter it.
It's complicated, okay?
Okay.
I think this one is going to be I think it's going to be a worth it. It has, we already talked about the problems and the advantages a lot, so I'm not gonna belabor the point too much. But overall, I would recommend someone to watch the show. And if you do like the show, even if you're just a couple episodes in, I would suggest reading the web novel or there is like a light novel that's available in the U.S., but whichever form you prefer, because I think the world development in the light novel and the web novel, and you can see some of it in the anime, is top tier. So go in there and explore, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And Rimmer will get more powerful, and we'll all be happy.
Yeah. For me, on my rating, I have to go the one tier lower than that. It's a I like it for me. It's not to say I don't enjoy it as much as you did. It's just one of those that to really judge how great I think my investment was is going to depend on the stuff that they touch on going forward and how well they adapt that. So again, like I would say, probably to somebody, hey, watch it if you're really curious about it. But I would say either watch it right before the new season's about to come out, or immediately transition into the source material, because I think that's where the story is actually really going to shine. But with that being said, in closing, Michael, how many volumes did the first season cover?
I believe 5. I believe, yeah. I believe
so how
5.
many officially translated ones are out? Is it like 2 or 3? Something like that?
Yeah, I think it may have caught up. I think it's 4 or 5 now.
So if you guys are curious, you can go and buy the books and read those.
Yeah, on Amazon, and then there's also some avenues for you to access the web novel.
That would be completion. So
yeah, I think on YouTube it's on completion. Yeah.
Now I know this is like you'd have to do some mathematical things in your head, but do you have an idea of how long the
I would say it can stretch out because a lot of like major events happen really closely in the web novel, but I would say a little bit less than half is what they covered in the first season, and that could probably extend. So I was thinking like 3 or 4 seasons if they really wanted to, because so many major things happen that they not necessarily gloss over but speed through in the web novel. So
interesting. All right, well, cool. Well, you heard it from us, so you go read or watch, and we hope we'll be back for more. Got more light novel stuff, got more manga stuff, got more comic stuff, got more anime stuff.
If you got any suggestion for an episode by episode, let us know.
Yes, please let us know. And with that, we'll see you guys later.
Later, Addicts.
Peace.